Today I'm going to be talking about nonverbal communication, and we're going to segue into emotions. The reason why I'm making this video is because I think that for understanding your mind and to get a better grasp on your mental state, you have to understand the inner workings of your mind. And by educating yourself and by delving deep into the science behind what's really going on in your mind, you're placing yourself in a better position to manage and to set new patterns and to create a new cadence of happy thoughts that are going to produce positivity in your life. The whole purpose of this is personal development and self-growth and evolution. And I do believe that the first step is understanding what's going on. So today I'm going to talk about nonverbal communication and emotions. To begin, let's talk about what nonverbal communication is. It is pretty self-explanatory, but it is communicating through a way other than using words. Whether that's eye contact, just pure eye contact, you could be communicating with someone, hand gestures, body language, and posture. These are all ways that we communicate as humans to one another, even though it's nonverbal. And I remember seeing a quote somewhere, I don't recall where, but it said something like 95% of communication is nonverbal. The other 5% is verbal. And I think that that's so accurate and it's so true. And partially the reason why it's true is because it's harder to fake your nonverbal communication than it is your verbal communication. If you're having a conversation with someone, they can tell you something, but if their body language is saying the complete opposite, it's an interesting situation to find yourself in, and you most of the time won't trust that person. There's something a bit shady going on. So one of the other main forms of nonverbal communication is your face. What facial expression do you have? And what emotion are you conveying through your facial expression? And this kind of segues into this topic of emotions. What I want to talk about are the findings of the American psychologist and professor Paul Ekman, who in 1967 conducted research across the world in Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Japan, and the US. And what he found is that across the world there are 6 main facial expressions. So universally there are 6, and it doesn't change across cultures. So this is a really important finding because it shows high external validity. And I want to talk about those 6 main expressions which convey emotion, and I want to talk about their significance. So the first one is anger. He found that across the world people express anger through their face, through an angry facial expression. And I think that makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense because wherever you find yourself in the world, no matter what culture you're in, most likely people are going to be somewhere, there's going to be angry people. So that makes sense. The next facial expression that he recognized universally was disgust. This is a pretty interesting one because we'll get into it later, but it's not processed the same way that the other 5 emotions are processed. But moving on, the third emotion that he discovered, third facial expression that he discovered rather, is fear. So no matter where you are in the world, across cultures, people share the facial expression of fear. And the fourth facial expression is happiness. So again, happiness. The 5th is sadness. And the 6th facial expression that is universal is a surprised expression on one's face. So when I first heard about this, I was so intrigued because out of 6 universal facial expressions that are conveying emotion, 4 of them are negative: anger, disgust, fear, and sadness. And only 1 of them is positive, and that's happiness. Now, there's surprise, which can go to happiness, but it can also go, based on context, to sadness. So I think it's important to leave that out for the sake of this. as far as what is a positive emotion. And of course, there is a reason for there being more negative emotions than positive emotions, evolutionarily speaking, and that is for our survival. You know, when we were back in hunter-gatherer times, having those negative emotions, they would protect us from potential threats and so on. But now we don't live in the Stone Age, and it's important to recognize that we are almost predetermined to have more susceptibility to negative emotions than to positive emotions. And to me, this is such an important thing to know, because what it means, it places, you can see more clearly how important it is to work on developing that one positive facial expression that was universal, which is happiness. So Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich that to be poor or unsuccessful, it requires no plan. But to become successful requires a plan. And I'm equating success with happiness in this example. So I think that having a plan to develop your happiness and to extend it in as many ways as you can, having this understanding in front of you it's so important. Happiness is the only universal facial expression that is positive. I think it's a huge and remarkable finding that Ekman gave us, and to understand this on a deeper level is important. I think it's really important, and that's what this channel is about. And I have such a personal interest in this because it means that the routines that you follow, or the routines that you create for yourself, you know, going to the gym, drinking a lot of water, having all of these things, journaling, going to sleep, or getting a sufficient amount of sleep, meditating, breath work, these various practices, they allow for that emotion of happiness to rise above the other emotions which you're competing for already. And what I mean by that is that there's more negative emotions, facial expressions, which convey emotion than positive. And as a result, we have to work harder to strengthen the happiness emotion, the happiness facial expression, to pass through that barrier and to become stronger than the negative emotions that are surrounding it, that it's grouped with. Just talking briefly about some of the more neuroscience end of things, the emotions are produced in the amygdala and are part of the limbic system, which is the emotional system in our brain. The amygdala is nestled deep in the subcortical region of your brain. So with that being said, it means we've had this for a long time. We've had these fight or flight emotional responses, which are part of our limbic system, for a very, very, very long time. And it is what has helped us to evolve and to survive as a species. So it is important. But again, we don't live in a time where it's as necessary for our survival, where this fight or flight response, when it's turned on, causes us more harm than good in today's world. So I think that this understanding that we need to work hard to strengthen our happiness is the main point that I want to drive home in this video. And it's something that we have the ability, all of us have the ability within ourselves to develop, to cultivate. And one place that I would highly recommend anybody to turn to is to, as I previously mentioned, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, because what Napoleon Hill does in that book is he provides a set of principles for anybody who can read to understand and to apply. And these principles lead to a feeling of purpose in life, which is going to lead to happiness and to strengthen that happiness emotion. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm going to make a few more like it, and if you enjoyed it, then give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video.